process of preparing food for consumption. In order for a food to cook, heat must be applied to the food. Heat is a type of energy. Heat travels within items in three ways: by conduction, convection, or radiation. Conduction is the transfer of heat from one item to another when the items come in direct contact with each other. Convection is the transfer of heat caused by the movement of molecules in the air, water, or fat from a warmer area to a cooler one. Radiation is the transfer of heat by microwave and infrared waves. Radiation does not require physical contact between the heat source and the food being cooked. Infrared heat is created when the heat from one source is absorbed by one material and then radiated out to the food. There are three general types of cooking methods: dry heat cooking, moist heat cooking, and combination cooking. Dry heat cooking involves food being cooked by direct heat or by indirect heat in a closed environment. Any food prepared using dry heat must be naturally tender or prepared by adding moisture. In dry heat cooking, moisture is added in the form of fat rather than water. Moisture can be added by barding, larding, or marinating. Barding is the process of wrapping an item with strips of fat before cooking to baste the meat, making it more moist. Larding involves inserting long, thin strips of fat into a large, naturally lean piece of meat with a special needle before cooking to baste the meat from the inside. Marinating is the practice of soaking an item in a combination of wet and dry ingredients to improve flavor and moisture. Dry heat cooking methods without fat include broiling, grilling, roasting, and baking. Broiling is a rapid cooking method which uses high heat from a source located above the food. Food which is broiled will be browned on the top. Grilling involves cooking food on a grill rack above the heat source. The result of grilling is food with a highly flavored outside and moist inside. Roasting and baking are almost identical methods of dry heat cooking. Both techniques apply dry, hot air, and as the outer layers of the food become heated, the food's natural juices turn to steam and are absorbed into the food. However, the terms roasting and baking refer to two different types of foods. Roasting is the term used when a food already has structure, such as meats and vegetables. Baking is the term used when foods do not have much structure until they are baked, such as cakes, pies, and cookies. Dry heat cookery methods which use fat and oil are sautéing, pan frying, stir frying, and deep frying. Sautéing is a cooking technique which cooks food rapidly in a small amount of fat over relatively high heat. The addition of the fat adds to the flavor of the end product. Pan frying involves cooking food in oil over medium heat. Many recipes call for coating foods which are pan fried with a batter or breading. The hot oil seals the food's coated surface and locks the natural juices inside instead of releasing them. The oil being used should come approximately halfway up the food being cooked. The purpose of pan frying is to produce foods with a flavorful exterior with a crisp crust, which helps retain the food's juices and flavors. Stir frying is a cooking method which cooks food rapidly in a small amount of oil while the food is being stirred quickly. Stir frying is typically done in a wok, a bowl-shaped pan, to aid in keeping the food in the pan while stirring. Deep frying involves food being completely immersed in hot fat and fried until it's done. The outside of the food item develops a crispy coating, while the inside stays moist and tender. Moist heat cooking techniques use water or water-based liquids at various temperatures to cook the food items which are submerged in the liquid. The types of moist heat cooking are poaching, simmering, boiling, blanching, and steaming. Poaching is the lowest temperature moist heat technique. The liquid is between 160 degrees Fahrenheit and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The liquid at this temperature should show some motion, but no air bubbles should break the surface. The food should be submerged in the poaching liquid to cook. Simmering involves the liquid being at 185 degrees Fahrenheit to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. The liquid at this temperature should have small bubbles breaking through the liquid surface. The food should be submerged in the simmering liquid to cook. Boiling is the highest temperature method for submersion. The liquid is at its boiling point approximately 212 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, there is very rapid movement of the liquid, with large bubbles breaking the liquid surface. The food is submerged in the boiling liquid to cook. Blanching is a variation of boiling in which the food item is placed in boiling water or fat and partially cooked, then removed to be finished at a later time. Steaming is cooking food by surrounding it in steam in a confined space. The direct contact with the steam cooks the food. Combination cooking methods use both dry heat and moist heat cooking methods. Combination cooking techniques are useful because they can transform the less tender and less expensive main ingredients into tender finished products. Braising and stewing are combination cooking methods. Braising is a cooking method which involves searing the food item in hot oil, then partially submerging the food product in enough liquid to come halfway up the food item in a covered pot or pan. The key to braising is long, slow cooking of the food product. Stewing techniques involve cutting the main food item into bite-sized pieces and either blanching or searing them in oil, and then completely submerging them in liquid in a covered pot. The liquid used in the stewing process is served with the main food items in the dish.
Right now, I'd like to talk a little bit about seasoning and flavoring and the differences in the two things. Seasoning is something that has to do with enhancing the flavor of something. Enhancing meaning we add salt, we add pepper. A lot of the times those things are added at the beginning of the cooking process when you're seasoning your meat, your raw meat, before you go to the act of applying heat to it. Also, seasoning tends to be used with care. You use a lot of restraint. You don't want to overdo it because you can always add, you can't take away. Flavoring has to do with the actual taste of the product that you're consuming. Like when you eat something, what flavors are coming out? Is it a fruit taste or is it the vegetable taste? Is it some herb that's coming out in there? There are 4 factors of flavor, and those are taste, texture, temperature, and appearance. All of these things have to do with what the food actually tastes like when you put it in your mouth, even the way it looks, because it's psychologically in your mind. If it doesn't look good, it's not going to taste good. So that has to do with the flavor. So these things are used not so much in moderation, not like a seasoning would be used in moderation like salt. These things are what you want to use to make the flavors bolder or more mild, or if you want something like a dill or a tarragon flavor to come out, you're going to put a little bit more. So that is what flavor means. There are 2 important qualities that a cook should use to determine the doneness of their product. The first one is, has it achieved the appropriate texture or the sought after texture, the texture that you want that product to have? And the other one is, has it reached the internal temperature that it is supposed to, the required internal temperature? There are special temperatures that you have to use according to your local regulatory authority.
Ground meat and meat mixtures of beef, poultry, veal, and lamb should reach an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Ground meat and meat mixtures of turkey and chicken should reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Fresh beef, pork, veal, and lamb should reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Whole chicken, whole turkey, poultry parts, duck, and goose should reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Raw ham should reach an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit, while pre-cooked ham should reach an internal temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Egg dishes should reach an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Fin fish should reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Leftovers and casseroles should reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. It is never safe to assume food is at the right internal temperature because it has finished its standardized cooking time. Always check the internal temperature by using a food thermometer.